So many of the couples that I see in my private coaching practice come in really sad and really angry. So setting boundaries, there's lots of different kinds of boundaries. I want time to go out with a friend once every couple of weeks, or I want us to give each other time on a very regular basis. That's a boundary too. This is part of what's going to make me happy here. I want us to spend good time together. Hi there. Welcome to another episode of the Talk Love with Carol show. This is episode 44. What we're talking about today is a journey from sad and angry to hopeful and happy. That sounds good, I bet. So the reason that I'm talking about this is so many of the couples that I see in my private coaching practice come in really sad and really angry. And I've helped over 1,000 couples go from that state of sad and angry to hopeful, and hopeful that they're going to be happy. And ultimately, they are. So I wanted us to just think about how being hopeless, which is what a lot of people are when they're sad and angry, how hard that is. We've in our relationships, probably all of us have at one time or another felt sad and angry. But I know that a lot of couples live in that state of mind all the time. It's not just once in a while. It's an extremely painful state, of course. And that feeling of hopelessness is just soul-sucking, and it drains people's joy and confidence, and replaces them with sort of drudgery and resentment, and then ultimately to resignation and distance from each other, which sounds awful, and it is. And that's when a lot of people decide they better get divorced, or the options are divorce or staying together and being miserable. So we don't want either of those. So let's talk about how to begin to turn this around so that you're not hopeless, or so that you're not hopeless and sad and angry anymore. So I'm Dr. Carol Henry. I'm a relationship coach and a psychologist, and I work with couples who are struggling in their relationship for lots of different reasons. Either they're empty nesters, or they're just, they're not, and they're struggling in, with figuring out how to get back to that relationship of their dreams. So let's talk about how to begin that, going from this sad and angry place into hopeful. And the way to do that is learning some important strategies for changing your relationship. And it's going to be, I'm going to say these things and teach them to you. And that's step one, to hear them. Step two is going to be to start using them and continue using those strategies. So let's get started. The first strategy that I'm going to talk about is knowing where your relationship is now. At the beginning of any journey, and let's call this a journey, you want to know where you're starting from. Obviously, if you're going to plan it, you have to know where you're starting from. And that may seem really obvious. I mean, it is kind of obvious, but it's not easy in relationship. It requires us to be really honest with ourselves. where am I right now? How how did we get there? But really, where are we right now? What about how connected do we feel? What about trust? What about how well we communicate? What do we do? Yeah, how about what do we do when we disagree? How do we act? In other words, how do we resolve conflicts? Or do we even do it? Um, do we even resolve conflicts? Where's our trust level with each other? And where's the fun too? How are we doing with that? So at other times in other episodes, I've talked about romance, and I'm defining that for this for this case in that real connection. How are we doing with that? Are we happy to see each other? Do we do fun things together? Do we have great conversations um, about everything, everything and anything? So really taking the time and using the honesty within you to really assess, review where you are in your relationship, rate it. How are we really doing in these areas? And when you've honestly look at them, um, and this can be within yourself or it could be with your partner or both. I mean, you'll have to discuss it, of course, but it's always nice to start with just let me think myself, where are we? So the second strategy, once you've done a self audit, a self assessment, rating yourself, I mean, your relationship, all that. The second step is, what am I willing to know, to let myself know about my part in where the relationship is? Not just the good parts, because there will be good parts, but the not so good parts. What's my part in creating them or sustaining them? Um, what do I need to hold myself accountable for? Um, that requires a lot of honesty, again, self-honesty, and the ability to own. It's not just my partner. We're all good at saying it's your fault. No, it's your fault. Trying to blame our partner for things. We're not so good at, most people anyway, are not so good at taking responsibility themselves. So really owning their part. I'll just come up with a few possibilities. I'm impatient. I don't listen very well. I just don't want to bother sometimes. I think the roles in a marriage should be those traditional ones. They're the best. Um, whatever your mindsets are, your thoughts are. I'm better at money, so I should be the one that takes all the responsibility for that and is the money boss. And by the way, I hear these from women just as and men both. So I'm not being, I'm not thinking it's just all one gender or the other. Um, another mindset. I'm too tired. I'm just trying to get out. I'm not going to bother doing the dishes. She'll do them or he'll do them or whatever. Okay, what's your part? So then, remember, we're in strategy number 2, being willing to know about yourself, to really in depth go into yourself. What do I know about me? Owning. What do I own about sort of the responsibility for how things got the way they are? And also then this part requires not blaming the other person and really not blaming yourself. It's just that knowing, just letting yourself know, yeah, I'm not the best husband, wife, partner, whatever in the world. I've got my flaws too. So you can assess yourself. How am I doing with not blaming, or am I a blaming person? Do I apologize if I make mistakes? How am I at setting boundaries? And boundaries within a relationship are things like, for example, I'm really stressed out when I get home from work. I need 20 minutes to sort myself out, to just go meditate or to take a walk around the neighborhood or go for a run. I need that. And then I'll be fully able to be present. So that's something I definitely need. Or when I've had the kids all day, I need that same thing that I just said before. I need this. I need to get out and get my run in. I've got, or my shower, if the kids are really little. Um, or, I'm not willing to do all the cooking, all the dishes, all the cleaning, that kind of thing. This is a boundary. I want help. I want you to take on some responsibilities and do them. I just can't / don't want to do all those things. So setting boundaries, there's lots of different kinds of boundaries. I want time to go out with a friend once every couple of weeks, or I want us to give each other time on a very regular basis. That's a boundary too. This is part of what's going to make me happy here. I want us to spend good time together. And we kind of lose track of that and don't. All those are boundaries. Okay. So we're in the assessing stage right here. And remember, the point of this is to figure out some strategies to go from sad and angry to more hopeful and ultimately happy. So first you figured out, where are you? Where are we in these things? And then secondly, we're figuring out what part is mine. And just to finish this section, it's the most powerful thing to know what you're responsible for, because you are who you can do something about. Nobody else can make you do something. You can make yourself do things. You can make that change. So this is that number 2 is really being honest about who you are. And I was just giving examples of what are some of the things to think about. Third strategy that's important. Remember, we're going from sad and angry. Where do we want to go? What's our vision? And this is something that you can each think of alone, but then you think of the shared vision. Where do we want to go? How do we want our relationship to be? We know we're sad. We know we're angry. What are we after? What do we want to have instead? What if we can figure out how to do it? What's it that we're trying to do? Where do we want to go? What do we imagine is a really good relationship where we'd be happy again? So that's strategy number 3, being willing to come up with that. And the fourth one, and that's the last one we're going to talk about today, is how are we going to get from here, where we are? Because in strategies 1 and 2, we're figuring out where is our relationship right now and what's my part. And ideally, the partner is thinking the same thing. What's his or her part? And then creating that vision. So to get out of sad and angry, we got to have a vision. So where do we want to be when we get out of that? Where are we headed? What's our vision of an ideal future? So the fourth one is, how are we going to get from here, where we are, to there? What's our strategy for that? I mean, the strategy is number 4 is a strategy, just knowing that that's a question. But then you have to create your strategy. So there's a number of ways that you may have tried. Maybe you've read some books on it. Maybe you've listened to some podcasts, or watch videos, or maybe taken a course, gone on a retreat, that kind of thing. But you find that you still haven't done any of those things. They're in your head, or they're floating around in there, or maybe a lot of them you've probably forgotten, but you've been exposed to them. And now comes, how are we going to implement this? And that's where, in my opinion, a relationship coach, couples therapist really comes in. There's other ways, but here's what human nature does with us. We learn something, let's say in a book or podcast. We think, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And we maybe do it once or twice. Maybe not. Maybe you forget about it. But maybe you do it. Maybe you try to do it once or twice. But in human nature, our brains are predetermined that it's going to try to make us go back to the old way. And we usually don't stick with things long enough. I mean, just think of New Year's resolutions. We don't stick with things long enough to get any accomplished. So what you could do, what I do with my couples, is I hold them accountable. We have a session. We figure, they figure out maybe between sessions or during sessions what they're going to be working on between now and the next time we get together. And then I hold them accountable to that. That's the missing link for the vast majority of people that are trying to make a difference. It's the rare person or couple that, when nobody holds them accountable, that they can make the changes that they need to make. It's just extremely difficult to sustain that on your own without a coach. And you might even be working on the wrong things. But I want you to think about what we talked about today, the strategies of realizing where you are, really figuring out where are we, in these different areas. Number 2, what's my part of that? Number 3, what's our vision? Where are we trying to get? Okay, now we see, we've got a lot of mess, let's say. So what's our vision? What are we going to do to, where are we headed? Where are we headed? What's our vision for our really ideal relationship? And then this 4th one is, what's our strategy to get there? What do we want to do? So if you want to investigate working with me, then I'm going to suggest that you either, you can schedule a call with me. And the call is, it's called Calendly. I think I've said this before, but Calendly is a scheduling, and you just schedule a call, and we have a call. And then we talk about, where are you, where you want to go, and do I have expertise in getting you there? I mean, if it's what we talked about today, absolutely. But, do you want to talk, do you want to work with me? Then, or you even want to think about working with me, call me up and we can set something up. So you can look in my Calendly scheduler, which will be in the comments. You can also give me send me an email at caroljhenryphd@gmail.com. And ultimately, or you can call me on my phone, 206-390-5715. So all of those things are possible. I hope you tune in next week. We will talk more about all these different things, and we'll go from this overview from today into going a little deeper in each of them, and it will really help you figure out and hopefully to get some hopefulness, because you don't have to just either get divorced or stay together miserable. You can do something about it. That's the piece that's so important. You can do something, even if you've tried and failed before. Try something different. Try something new. Try working with somebody who will link arms with you and hold you accountable. And and in with grace, not like, not, you're naughty, but let's get this done together. Let's finally get these changes made, these tweaks made, and so that you get to be living in that relationship that you've wanted to be living in. Okay, have a good week, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye now.